you need that progesterone to help protect that lining of the uterus. So when you lower that progesterone, but you don't necessarily lower that estrogen, it's going to make that estrogen a little higher or more dominant. So it's going to create more of a thickened lining. And she already had one from that transvaginal ultrasound. I increased my estrogen and started bleeding. Now what? Hi, I'm Dr. Valerie Davidson from the Progress Your Health podcast.
And I'm Dr. Mackey from the Progress Your Health podcast.
So we're going to talk about a question right here, but what I want to circle back to is if you're looking for guidance or questions about your HRT or your hormones, is you can go to hormonenavigator.com, which is an AI coaching app that we created ourselves. It just came out, May of 2026. And that's why these questions that you send in to us are so great, because this is a question from Colleen. We change everybody's names, but I can tell that she's frustrated and in a little ways kind of desperate on what to do. So people write to us, and I'm sure, we try to get to everybody, but we can't. If you have the Hormone Navigator, then you can put your question in there and get your answer.
Yeah, we used to do Ask the Doctor on our website. It's the little manual. It's a little hard to keep up. This actually gives our framework, and now those questions can be answered pretty much anytime a problem arises.
Yeah, so check it out, hormonenavigator.com. And now I'm going to go ahead and read Colleen's question. So here we go. I just found your podcast and I'm making my way through them. Thank you for all the information. I liked when I understood my DEXA, because we did one on how to interpret your DEXA bone density. But here's my specific situation. I've been in menopause since I was 45, maybe earlier, but I had an IUD at the time. I started an estrogen progesterone pill about a year after I went through menopause. That worked well to help with my symptoms, but then I asked for a transdermal so that it would be easier on my liver. So I got the combi patch. That worked well for me, but I again asked to have my progesterone as an oral in hopes that it would help with my sleep. I was on a 0.05 estradiol patch and 100 milligrams of progesterone. I was still having sleep issues, and also my estrogen blood level was on the lower side. So I moved up to a 0.1 estradiol patch and a 200 milligram progesterone. About 6 months into that, I started spotting pretty regularly. My gynecologist ordered a transvaginal ultrasound. The lining was slightly thickened, but she wasn't concerned. I also had some fibroids. She did a biopsy, all normal. The gynecologist had me lower my progesterone back down to 100 milligrams per day, but said to keep my estradiol patch the same at 0.1 milligrams twice a week. I'm still having spotting. It's dark brown and clumpy blood. It's not bright red like a period, just brown and clumpy. I'm very frustrated. Shouldn't my estradiol be reduced if my progesterone is reduced? By the way, I've gone through multiple doctors because they keep retiring. Sometimes I feel like I know more than some of my doctors. You probably do, Colleen, and maybe I don't need it. I just worry that I went through menopause fairly early, and I'm trying to do all the things I can do to stay healthy, and the spotting is very annoying and also very worrying. Thanks.
Well, that's not one that we, certainly a situation that we haven't either dealt with before or heard on the podcast before in the past. Obviously, there's one little, thing that she pointed out there. What do you think about her situation?
Well, honestly, this is something we run into a lot. This is probably one of the top, if you're looking at like the top 5 questions we get through our podcast on Ask the Doctor, or people just reaching out from all over the world, it's about estradiol and spotting, about taking estradiol, specifically the estradiol patch, because it is notorious for spotting.
Of course.
But there is that ratio. So people talk about ratios and they want to do all this math and all this jazz. But if you were to look at the, conceptually, Colleen is right. You need that progesterone to help protect that lining of the uterus. So when you lower that progesterone, but you don't necessarily lower that estrogen, it's going to make that estrogen a little higher or more dominant. So it's going to create more of a thickened lining. And she already had one from that transvaginal ultrasound, that reducing that progesterone, but keeping that estradiol at 0.1 milligram as a patch is actually, that's the strongest dosage on there, is that's going to cause that lining to even thicken up even more.
Yeah. Now, granted, we're not giving any medical advice here. This is just a question that comes in. So, of course, we have to disclaim those kinds of things. But this kind of a situation, we know it's really hard to get answers to something like this. Now, granted, going to a gynecologist, they should be able to right the ship, as you mentioned. either you're going to lower the estrogen or increase the progesterone, or in some women, you're going to end up doing both of those. You're going to lower the estrogen and increase the progesterone. And then you sort of wait a little bit of time to see if the spotting comes back.
I do like the oral progesterone because I do feel like it helps give a little bit better measure of protection to keeping that uterine lining thinner than doing a cream. So I like that she's on the oral progesterone. But I will say, when you're looking at this from that big picture, you don't always want to just say, oh, well, try this or try that or try this or try that. You know, you'd want to test. I'm glad that they did a biopsy of that uterine lining just to make sure. But like she had mentioned, she also has fibroids. So this tells me that in her past, she probably did have her uterine lining is probably much more sensitive to estradiol than, say, somebody else that doesn't have fibroids. I mean, everyone's different. If we did a Dutch test, you could find out, what level of proliferation she has, because everybody is different. Like, for example, I know that I have a lot of uterine endometrial proliferation from my history of, having heavy periods and thickened lining. So that's where you have to take that into consideration when you're adjusting or tailoring that HRT to that person.
Yes. You sort of caught me flat.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're just talking and you kind
Passing the ball.
Yeah, you caught me flat. This now there's several different dosages of the estradiol patch, whatever one she's using. I mean, the obvious idea there would be to either cut it in half, lower it, change it to one of the other dosages until the spotting subsides. I'm not really sure. Why do you think that the gynecologist lower the progesterone?
I'm not sure. I really, back, 20 years ago when I started in HRT, this was a little bit of, the Wild West, as you kind of had to learn as you go. Now there's a lot of, courses and classes and information you can take on how to dose HRT that I wouldn't have lowered that progesterone. I would have lowered the estradiol first, but I can understand maybe, the hesitancy, because like she had said on her question here is when she was doing that lower dose, the 0.05, she was still having symptoms. So they raised it up, but now it's almost too much of a good thing. I would say if I would almost go back to the drawing board with Colleen and switch her to a compounded biased cream that has the estradiol and the estriol combined in it, so that because when you do a compounded cream, it's still considered transdermal. It's different on the way the mechanism of letting that estradiol go into the system. Like I consider a patch almost like an IV drip of estradiol, or when you do a cream, you do it in the morning and in the evening of an estradiol, estriol, a biased. It's almost like it goes right into the system fairly quickly, but not super fast. And then over time, it gently subsides, and then you apply your next dose. So it's a little different, but you can make almost any dose for that person. So I have so many people on different bias doses. Like it's not a one-stop shop. Where somebody that's more sensitive with their uterine lining, they have some fibroids, you can activate fibroids by giving somebody too much estradiol. Then you're really down the rabbit's hole with that, because that's hard to back out of. I would consider switching her to an estriol biased cream. And then at that point, depending on how her uterus is responding, you could go anywhere between 150 milligrams of progesterone, 175 milligrams of progesterone. So it doesn't have to be either 200 or 100. You can have, when you compound progesterone as an oral capsule, you can do any dose you want.
Right. I'm still sort of stuck on the reason, like as you explained, the thing that should have probably happened is that the estradiol patch dose should have went down and the progesterone could have stayed exactly the same. So I mean, she's got a very valid question. I can understand one, it being inconvenient because it's lasted for 6 months. Now, when someone is starting the patch or any HRT in general, you have to sort of anticipate that there's going to be a little spotting in the first 1 to 3 months.
Okay? Not everybody. I mean, would you say 100% of your patients spot?
I didn't say 100%. I said you have to anticipate that it's possible.
Exactly.
Right? Especially if she's now granted, she went into menopause at 45. Let's say if she was 45 right now, or she's on the tail end of perimenopause and she's going into menopause, you might think that it's possible, not 100%. If a woman is already into menopause in her, let's say her early to mid 50s, they're probably less likely, or the further that she's away from her last menstrual cycle, the less likely is to have any spotting. But sometimes you just can't predict. It's just it happens, and then now you adjust. You either lower estrogen, raise progesterone, or you do one or the other. In this context, I think it just should have been her patch dose should have just been lowered.
I think now that she's already spotting, she's continuously spotting, sometimes, because it does happen. And I always tell people, if you start to spot, you let me know right away. So I'll tell you exactly what to do and where we're going to go from there. And it does catalog a little information in my brain that person's estrogen sensitive tissues are very sensitive to estradiol.
Yeah.
But I will say, when someone does spot, I do have them stop the hormones for a little bit, for a couple of days, just because if there is some lining that's accumulated, by stopping the hormones, you can get all of that lining to come out. So perhaps her gynecologist may have said, we'll go down to 100 for a couple of days to get that entire uterine lining to slop off so we can start over. But that would have probably been my first order of business when she got the transvaginal ultrasound. If someone has a little thickened lining, like, we got to thin that lining
So
down.
thickened means what? What's considered a thickened lining?
Well, you tell me.
If the lining is greater than 6 millimeters, then it's considered thickened.
Yeah, if you're doing a transvaginal ultrasound, they'll give you a a numerical of how thick that lining is, and you want it under 6 millimeters.
Yeah. So she says slightly thickened. So is that 8? Is that 10? Is that 9?
Been 6 on the money.
Yeah. Who knows? Clearly, the gynecologist wasn't worried about it. In the short term, it's not that big of a deal. It's only been relatively 6 months. Nothing dangerous is going to happen in 6 months. In some ways, the fact that and you and I have talked about this before, the fact that she's having some spotting in some ways is sort of like a good thing, because, as you mentioned, it gives the practitioner a sense of where her sensitivities are. That way there's no surprises down the road.
And it's like you said, it's something we want to take into consideration. But, I'm sure with Colleen, like she said, it's annoying. It is. Yeah. It's annoying. Like, do I have to wear little panty liners all the time? When I go to the bathroom, I wipe. Is it going to turn into a full-fledged period? I'm going to have like something on my pants. It starts to mess with your psychology a little bit. And also, too, if you're intimate, that's kind of annoying, too. So I would definitely say not blow. I wouldn't want her, her practitioner to blow her off. They need to say, let's test it. Let's see where the blood levels are. Let's change up that estradiol patch. Let's bring it down a little bit, because if she is being overly estrogenized, she might even notice, like, maybe I've gained a little bit of weight, because when your estrogen's a little too high, you'll get a little puffy, you'll get bloated, you'll get munchy, you'll get defensive, you'll get moody. It's like you're having PMS all the time. It's like you feel like a 15-year-old, like, or something. But it is, and then they'll put on a few pounds, usually between 3 to 5 pounds. Then okay, that's not the type of HRT that's meant for her. That's why HRT needs to be adjusted and tailored for the specific individual, not just here's a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah, it's really a tough spot if she lowers the dose and then her symptoms come back, but she raises the dose of the patch, but now she's having spotting. That's a tough spot to be in, because one dose is too low and the other dose is too high. What are you supposed to do?
That's why I think the estradiol patch, because even though they have, 0.025, 0.035, 0.05, and then 1, our 0.1 is, when you're doing that compounded, you can make any little adjustment you want, like, as opposed to you either, it's like, this, like Goldilocks, this is too hot and this is too cold. Might not be able to find something just right if you're doing the estradiol patch with somebody that has the uterine lining that might be more sensitive to that estradiol.
Right. Yeah. Now, granted, to make it a little bit more complicated, there's even been situations where if someone does continue to spot on a regular basis, we are not able to get it under control. Then, sometimes rhythmic dosing, where you're controlling the bleeding, is actually another viable option. So granted, she's spotting right now. She doesn't like it. It's inconvenient. Now you go from that to having a regular 28-day period, maybe not a good trade-off, but it does give a little bit peace of mind, and you are able to control symptoms better that way too. Like I said earlier, if you're having symptoms, but one dose is too low, the other one's too high, where's that sweet spot? There is another way to potentially achieve that.
Yeah, that is one thing that we do when we talk about this podcast, is there's so many different ways to do HRT. It's not just, take this, it doesn't work for you, oh well. There's so many ways to tailor it. So like you said, there's rhythmic dosing, there's static dosing, there's different ways of doing the different static dosing. You can do different ratios of estradiol to estriol, or just an estradiol transdermal cream instead of doing a patch.
Right. And that's really at the end of the day. Now, granted, this, the way she's doing it now clearly is not the right answer, right? The estradiol dose needs to change, at least in our opinion. And honestly, the progesterone dose, she didn't seem to be complaining of the 200 milligram progesterone. She didn't mention if it actually helped with her sleep or not necessarily. But that one probably could have stayed as is to give that a little extra protection, to keep the spotting sort of at bay.
Nope, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So again, if you are interested in getting your questions and your HRT guidance, your perimenopause and menopause guidance, you can visit hormonenavigator.com. That is our AI coaching app that is having basically Dr. Davidson in your pocket, which, like I said, these questions are hard to find answers to.
I was talking to somebody that had, because I love to get the feedback from the app, like, hey, because this is brand new and I'm still still feeding it more and teaching it more because it has my knowledge and your knowledge, since 2000 for me, 2004, 2003 for you. But I was talking to someone and she was like, it is so interesting. It sounds just like talking to you because some of the words that come out, because when I was talking to her, she goes, because I say a lot of the same phrases, on a side note this, or I have some of my own little cliche phrases. And she's like, it sounds just like you. And she goes, it was really good because I do have some tracking in there. So so people will track their cycles, they'll track their hair, they'll track their mood, they'll track their bowels. So you can just watch and follow patterns, because that's one thing that I've found with patients, and I'm sure you too, is I want to know every little nuance that's going on because we can pull that into the big picture, because hormones are not just about hot flashes and periods. It's about your bone density. It's about your mood. It's about, even if you're craving sugar or if you're getting hungry, like sometimes hormones can influence that. It can even brain fog, so that's where it was really neat to talk to her to get the feedback from all the people that have been using it.
Yeah. So again, hormonenavigator.com if you're like to check that out. Any final comments about Colleen's question, or can we wrap this one up?
I think we can wrap it up. Thank you, Colleen, for writing into us.
Take care. Bye-bye.